Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm really excited for this video. This video, I'm going to be talking about listening to God when He gives us an order. There are many stories where God gives people orders in the Bible, so I chose to use two different Bible stories for this video. The first story is from Exodus 3. This story is about Moses and the burning bush. The second story is going to be the story of Jonah and how he flees from God. Moses was the adopted son of a princess. He grew up in royalty, but one day God spoke to Moses, and there is where our story picks up in Exodus 3. Now Moses was tending to the flock of his father-in-law, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that, thought the bush was on fire, and did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over there and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said to him, Here I am. The bush said, or God said, Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Wow. So a bush just began to burn up, and here's God talking to Moses, and Moses just says, Here I am. If this was me, I'd be freaking out that a bush just went up in flames, and now the bush is talking to me. But it doesn't end here. In verse 7, it continues. Verse 7, it says, The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and bring them up into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. This is a big task, to march up to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt. The story continues, but we don't have enough time for that in this video. Moses ends up listening to God and helps the Israelites to the promised land with a big help from God. In this next story, we're going to see what happens if we don't obey God. The next story is about a man, like I talked about. His name is Jonah. It begins in Jonah 1. Verse 1. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. The reason he was running from the Lord was because the city of Nineveh was one of the most hate-filled cities at the time. Verse 4, it picks back up. Then the Lord sent a great wind to the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. Verse 5, all the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below the deck, where he lay and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so we will not perish. Then the sailors said to each other, Come, let us cast lots to see who is responsible for this calamity. They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, Tell us, who is responsible for making all of this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? For what people are you? They started to believe that Jonah was the cause of the storm. He answered, I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. This terrified them, and they asked, What have you done? They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, What should we do? We do not want "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" Jonah responded, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. I know that this is my fault. That this great storm has come upon me." Jonah knew that this was his fault, because the storm was his fault, and he found a solution. Instead, verse 13, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. They cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, Lord, have done as you pleased." Verse 15, Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. Verse 16, At this the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. They did not want to listen to Jonah's solution because they did not want to be responsible for his death. Because we don't have enough time today, I'm going to sum up the rest of Jonah's story. After they threw him into the water, the storm stopped. Jonah was then swallowed by a huge fish, and it was in that fish that he apologized to God, and he committed the rest of his life to follow out his plan for God. Life with God is so much easier, and I encourage you guys to choose God's path for your life. Before I end this video, I have a couple of points to go over. My first point, you will never know what God's plan is in your life if you don't trust him and give your life over to him. Because Moses trusted God, he was able to help deliver the Israelites to the promised land. When we mess up in life, God will give us second chances like he did for Jonah. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching.